visited death. We visited something that was totally hopeless when we opened up the 37th chapter of Ezekiel and read once more about the valley of the dry bones. Now, this valley was covered in the bones as a result of what had been at one time a mighty, mighty battle where thousands had been killed, where there were so many dead that it was impossible to bury the bodies. And all that was left over were the bones, and they were laying everywhere. And this is the valley to which God sent Ezekiel. And he led Ezekiel there, and he said, look out there. Look at all these skeletons. Look at these dry bones. And he asked Ezekiel, said, Ezekiel, what do you think? Is there any hope for these bones? Is there any life left for them? And of course, Ezekiel answered, well, only you know, Lord. And so God spoke to him, and he said, Ezekiel, speak my word to these bones. Prophesy to them. Tell them to come together. Tell them to take on sinew and flesh. I've got to think Ezekiel's got to be scratching his head. This is weird, Lord. You can't bring these bones back to life. Look at them. They're not even nearly dead, or only a couple of days dead. These bones are dried and bleached out. There's no hope. Yet he trusted in the Lord, and so he spoke, and he said, bones, come together. And there was this rattling and clattering as the bones started creeping towards one another, kind of like one of those weird horror movies. But they joined together, and sinews grew, and flesh grew, and skin grew. And Ezekiel was looking out, and there were thousands of dead people laying out there, but they looked like they were just brand new dead. God says, now I'll tell you what you're going to do. Command them to come to life. Speak to them, and the breath of life will come into them. And Ezekiel did that. And all of a sudden, one by one, and then groups of 10 and then 20 and hundreds, they start standing up and lining up. And behold, a vast army was before them. Now, God was actually giving Ezekiel an illustration of what appeared to be a dying nation, a nation that had turned away from him, a nation that had ignored his laws, his rules, his way of living, a nation that had forgot to love one another and even forgot to live their God, a nation that was looking towards other gods. And God was telling him that even though there is going to be a penalty to pay for turning away from God, yet I will preserve a remnant of Israel. I will breathe life into that which seems hopeless. I will bring the nation, yea, even the church itself, to come back to life. So we turn from that this morning, and we turn to Jesus talking about not only just life, but abundant life. We left off with Ezekiel, and there's these rows upon rows upon rows of soldiers standing there. And it doesn't say what they were doing. It doesn't say if they were cheering or just standing rigidly at attention. They were alive, but that they have abundant life. I don't know. That's not part of this story. But Jesus begins to talk about this abundant life, but he does so by talking about, what happens when you follow the wrong person, when the wrong person comes into your life and tries to sweet-talk you away from God. Listen to the way he tells this story. He says, I tell you the truth. The man who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The man who enters by the gate is the shepherd of his sheep. The watchman opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they'll never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this as a figure of speech, but they did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore Jesus said again, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. All who ever come before me, they were thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. May God add his blessing to the reading and the hearing of this word this morning. Now, this is an interesting story because Jesus was talking about sheep. And true flocks of sheep, I almost said herds of sheep, I'd have been wrong, but flocks of sheep will only follow the one who they recognize their one true shepherd. That's the only voice they'll listen to, and in fact, that's the only voice that they will follow. Anyone else comes in and tries to lead them, and they're going to get frightened and run away. Jesus talks about those who come in and enter by climbing over the fence or climbing under the fence or some other way, and he says they're nothing but thieves and robbers. And the sheep know that. Problem is, so many of us these days don't even rise to the caliber of these sheep. For the sheep knew when a false voice was trying to lead them, but sometimes we human beings don't. We listen to so many different things in this world today, so many different opinions, so many different people saying, well, no, you really don't have to do this, you can do this instead. Or you can do this, it's really not going to hurt you, even though you know it's wrong. You know, we listen to, I love the election seasons. We're almost upon one now, and you're going to hear people telling you everything in the world. Do you like apple pie? If you vote for me, you're going to have apple pie. It's going to be in the sky. You can reach up there and you can grab it. Everything is going to be great if you vote for me. But this other guy, oh my word, he's terrible. You know, you've heard that before. I'm already starting, I like that. I'm already starting to get telephone calls. You know, I've had a brand new telephone number for just about a week, and I'm already getting phone calls on it. I don't know how they got the number, but they're already trying to convince me who I ought to vote for. And what I've got to do is I've got to try and sort through all of this stuff and figure out which person is good. Is she good? Is she bad? Is he good? Is he bad? You know, what are they all about? And each one of them wants to tell me and convince me how wonderful they are. How do I know who to listen to? What do I do? And if that's not enough, I go to my mailbox and already I am getting all sorts of correspondence. I'm getting magazines, I'm getting advertisements and stuff. I turn on the TV and 50% of what I see on TV is advertisements for products that are guaranteeing that if I will but buy that product, every aspect of my life is going to be better. Have you ever get any of those yourself? Maybe once in a while. You know, and every time I turn around, somebody's telling me, do this, do that. And I wonder, who are the false prophets? What are they really asking me to do? And above all, where is God in the picture? You know, and I realize it's up to me to figure out where's God. And that's going to take a little bit of effort. And you know, part of the problem with this world is it tries to convince us that whatever it is that we actually do have, we need more. You know, I'm working towards this term of abundance here. But whatever it is we have, we need more. Now, I spent a long time in construction, partly because I love tools. Anybody here like tools? Not a guy in here that doesn't like tools, right? And no matter what, I always had to have one more tool. Typically, the more power it had, the better. Huh? Right? And it's never quite enough. And even today, I'm retired from construction for over 15 years now. And even today, I can open up an Orscheln's ad or some ad that comes up to my attention, and I look and I say, you know what? Boy, I could get that on sale, and that's going to make me so much better. It's going to fulfill my need. Or some other people here, it might be cosmetics, it might be clothing, it might be jewelry. I've grown up for most of the last part of my life with 2 daughters and a wife, and they like some of those things. I go home and sure enough, there's always something else, another piece of jewelry, another cosmetic, guaranteed to make them beautiful. I got to tell you what, they're beautiful already. What's the deal? But everybody, it seems, has got that one thing which is going to fulfill them and make their life all better. I'm looking at some bikers down here, and probably they're thinking to themselves, yeah, I know what you're saying, but what I really want is more chrome. Am I right? There's no such thing as too much chrome for a biker, or one more accessory, a new air filter to make it run faster, or louder pipes. Oh, pipes are good. It doesn't matter what it is. There's always something that's trying to convince you that this is the one thing you need to have a fulfilled life. But Jesus is really trying to tell us, if we want a fulfilled life, if we want an abundant life, it doesn't consist of all of the things which we have. It especially doesn't consist of turning away and following one false prophet after another false prophet. Rather, it still centers into the one thing. And that's following Jesus Christ. That's loving the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, strength, and mind, making that a part of your everyday 24/7 life. It's about loving your neighbor as yourself. That's one of the things that I have found over the years that I've been going to church. The more time I spend in church, the more time I spend with Christian sisters and brothers, the closer I feel to God, the richer I feel. I can tell you stories about how when I left the construction world, I was making so much more money than I am today, and that's true. I can also tell you that I lead a richer, fuller, more joy-filled life than I've ever lived before because I've got Jesus in my life. I've got Christian sisters and brothers of all ages, sexes, shapes, everything else. You all help to make me complete. You all help each other to be complete. Amen. It's when we come together as the family of God, looking to Jesus and His teachings, that our lives begin to change. Sometimes I really worry because we talk about salvation. We think about, well, that's for the sweet by and by. I got to get it done someday, but it's just for the sweet by and by. There's some truth in that. Salvation begins here and now. the minute you ask Jesus Christ into your life, the moment we begin living to please God, we change. When we submit to the Holy Spirit, we're transformed. And gradually, just like those snails a while ago in the children's moment, we find ourselves growing stronger shells. We find ourselves slowly becoming more and more like Jesus Christ every day. And amazingly, we find that our life is so much fuller and so much more abundant. So I can stand here and I can say, I don't make all the money that I once did. I sure don't make all the money that Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg make. But I tell you what, I got riches. I got riches. Each one of you enrich me. Christ enriches me beyond compare. And the quality of life I enjoy right this minute is so much better. And I'm sure that each one of you, too, as you reflect over how you have changed and transformed because of what Jesus has done in your life, each one of you have got to be thinking the same thing. Life is so much better now. But yet, we've still got to struggle. We struggle against the forces of this world that really are powerful. And we just have to remember, keep our eyes on Jesus, who, after all, is the author and perfecter of our faith, right? Amen. Keep our eyes on Jesus, right? Amen. Just two people agreeing with that? We keep our eyes on Jesus. We learn to listen for the true shepherd who leads us faithfully, whom we can follow safely and not get hurt. And He'll lead us to those lush green pastures, the flowing waters like we see in Psalm 23, the quiet places of rest. Jesus will fill our lives with abundance. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, help yours to be the only voice that carries authority in our lives. When other voices try to lure us in one direction or another, let us turn to you for guidance, for truth. And Lord, if you say it's okay, but if not, lead us in the direction we need to go. And Lord, above all, in you we will find abundance of life. Bless us. In your name, amen. Jesus also calls us